Yes, you're welcome to the program. The day is cast. The Christmas is round the corner. And all and everything are set for it. You are welcome to the program this morning, or as we call it, this noon. And I want to wish you all the very best. I am Wale Ogunade, your host on this program. Voters Forum is the name of the program. And you can be sure that it's going to be an interesting ride. We are still continuing the series of the arms of government. Today we'll be looking at the third arm, which makes it a tripod, on which the essence and the system of government sits, not even stand. And it's an interesting topic. And of course, our guests will be doing justice to the issue. And before we go on, I'll quickly let's have the mini future. And when we come back, then we'll get cracking.
Government is the sum total of legislative, executive and judicial activities, irrespective of the existing political system and ideological persuasion. The executive in many political systems is the most obvious and developed arm of government. The significance of the executive arm of government in Nigeria's democratic governance focuses specifically on the president and the presidency under the 1979, 1989 and 1999 federal constitutions. The executive is the arm of government responsible for the overall governance of a state. In a democratic setting, which allows for separation of powers, the executive arm of government is responsible for enforcing and executing laws made by the legislative arm of government. In Nigeria, the president is the head of the executive arm of government, which also includes the vice president, cabinet members, and governmental departments. The President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria also has power to create some laws, such as executive orders. However, they are subject to review by the judicial arm of government, which has the power to declare them unconstitutional. The functions of executive arm of government in Nigeria are as follows. 1. They formulate policies of government. 2. They implement government policies. 3. They appoint and remove top officials of state with the approval of the Senate. And 4. They declare war and state of emergency. One of the key functions of the state is to defend and preserve the unity and integrity of the country and protect it in the event of an external aggression of war. It is the responsibility of the executive to undertake and organize military for the defense of the state, to negotiate and sign peace settlements after every war. The executive is the final judge of the nature of the threat of the security of the country, because the chief executive of the state is also the supreme commander of the armed forces. Government is the sum total of legislative, executive and judicial activities, irrespective of the existing political system and ideological persuasion. The executive in many political systems is the most obvious and developed arm of government. The significance of the executive arm of government in Nigeria's democratic governance focuses specifically on the president and the presidency under the 1979, 1989 and 1999 federal constitutions. The executive is the arm of government responsible for the overall governance of a state. In a democratic setting, which allows for separation of powers, the executive arm of government is responsible for enforcing and executing laws made by the legislative arm of government. In Nigeria, the president is the head of the executive arm of government, which also includes the vice president, cabinet members, and governmental departments. The President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria also has power to create some laws, such as executive orders. However, they are subject to review by the judicial arm of government, which has the power to declare them unconstitutional. The functions of executive arm of government in Nigeria are as follows. 1. They formulate policies of government. 2. They implement government policies. 3. They appoint and remove top officials of state with the approval of the Senate. And 4. They declare war and state of emergency. One of the key functions of the state is to defend and preserve the unity and integrity of the country and protect it in the event of an external aggression of war. It is the responsibility of the executive to undertake and organize military for the defense of the state, to negotiate and sign peace settlements after every war. The executive is the final judge of the nature of the threat of the security of the country, because the chief executive of the state is also the supreme commander of the armed forces.
Wow, government. You can now see what government is. But then, I don't want to go too far. Let us allow our guests to give us what we have. Meanwhile, today, my co-host is not around. And I will try and pilot the scheme and see how God will help me. And I know that it will come out fine. So, for now, we'll introduce our guest on Zoom on the Zoom, and later on our studio guest. And our Zoom guest is nobody than Comrade Debo Adeniro. We have said that if he's able to succeed in carrying out this series effectively, we will confer him a professor. And I hope he has prepared very well for this assignment. So, Comrade, how are you, sir?
Christmas in advance.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I hope that your studio will adjust so that I will be able to see your fine face, even when your beautiful partner is not around.
Yes,
I can see you presently.
We'll work on it. We'll work on it.
It's my pleasure being with you again.
Thank you so very much. We too, is our pleasure, and really we appreciate your time because we know that you're a very busy person. But
I hope that you will soon allow me to do my inaugural lecture so that we will actually confirm the professorial seat.
Yes, we'll do that sometime next year. Definitely come. So,
thank you.
Comrade, I've started calling you Prof. Papa. Comrade Prof. We have discussed the judiciary legislature upper week. Last week we discussed the judiciary, and now we want to look at the executive. And many people look at executive as the government. People don't look at the other arms of government. Every focus and attention is on the executive. Why is it so?
Yeah, thank you very much. Because the power to do and undo belongs to the executive. I mean, when it comes to governance, you only elect 2 people in the executive, unlike in the legislature where you elect so many people, at least 3 senators per state and several members of House of Representatives per state in legislature. But in the executive, the importance attached to it stems from the fact that those 2 people, the president and the vice president, in the case of federal government, the governor and the deputy governor in case of the states, and the chairman and the vice chairman in the case of local government. Now, that they are simply, as a matter of fact, it's just one ticket that we voted for at those levels. So a lot of people attach so much importance to it. And the reason is not far-fetched. It stems from the fact that the president or the governor has the powers to appoint whoever he likes, even as at the time of contesting. It is the president, the governor, or the chairman that has the power to appoint their running mates. And these running mates are their deputies. And because they have that enormous powers, a lot of people think that they constitute the government. And in fact, it is like that, because he who pays the piper dictates the tune. It is in their hands that the resources of their government is entrusted. They control the federation accounts, because they appoint those who man those, the operations of those accounts. And they are in charge of our security. They can declare war, they can declare war, they can declare state of emergency, they can actually merge states, they can do anything that they like as far as prosecuting, security exercise is concerned. They can appoint heads of agencies and, of course, disappoint them in quotes. They can also appoint their ministers or commissioners, as the case it may be, and remove them at will, because they are the ones who appointed them. So everybody feels that the president is the boss, the governors are the bosses in their various states, the chairmen, maybe they are not as free as the president and the governors, because from the way the arrangement of their funding is as at now, and their control system is still vested, most of their powers is still attached to the powers of the state governors. Their accounts generally are not as direct from the federation accounts as the ones that goes to the states. But then the governor has the executive power to execute projects. Everybody looks forward to them for contracts. Those contractors. So a lot of people kowtow to them, either for appointment, for appointive offices, even for employment, when recruitment is necessary, for procurement, when things to be bought, when contracts to be executed services. The president and the governor has enormous powers to determine what goes into them, despite the fact that we still have some policies that should guide their operations. We have some laws, we have some commissions that have the assignment to perform certain part of their functioning. But generally, our security, the security and welfare of the citizens being the main purpose of government, is vested, in their hands. Generally, if they misbehave, it will affect all of us. And that is what can be termed as wholesale jeopardy, when they take decisions that affect all the citizens. And don't forget that the monetary policy, the security policies, the internal organization of a state, and so on and so forth, is vested in their hands. And they also transfer some of these powers to the MDAs, ministry, departments, and agencies. And they have the power to create commissions like EFCC, which they created, ICPC, which they have created, other commissions like that, and regulatory agencies through which they function at those, they function at those levels. So basically, the reason why the general public perceive the president, the governor, and the chairman as the government is because of the power that is concentrated in their hand. However, the people are the owners of the instrument of governing that gives all of these heads of government all the powers that they could exercise. And the people can also withdraw the instrument of governing that they entrust or they have entrusted in their hands when they voted them to power. But the people rarely use it because they believe that they are not likely to succeed. And that is the reason why most of the head of government believe also that they are laws of the manor and that they can do and undo. The world is under their feet, and they sometimes trample upon the rights of the people without considering the implication of it, within the Committee of Nations in the world. Well, they can railroad a country into crisis, and they can remove a country from the crisis. It's based on the policy they implement, how they implement it, and how far-reaching their immediate and long-term decisions are. Then they execute the budget. The budget is upon which is the platform upon which the functioning of government, all arms of government, are resting. So they could decide for the people at some level what goes into the appropriation bills that becomes the budget eventually. They control the news, the news of the national and state resources. And that is why the legislature in most cases and the judiciary are more or less subservient to the chief executive of the country or the state or even at the local government, because their budget, the budget of the judiciary, the budget of the legislature will be released from the federation account based on the authority of the president or vice president, notwithstanding of the fact that it should come from the federation accounts. But despite that, they still have authority to, they have opportunity of determining how much they declare as being in the state coffers or in the national coffers, so that anybody that does a budget will do it within the precinct of what the executive declares. And that is why most corruption cases concentrate at the level of the executive and those that they appointed to man different posts, of governance for them. These posts of governance are the ones that I call MDAs. So basically, the executives is so powerful, and also they are protected by the Constitution, and that is where the immunity clause comes in. It's only the chairman of the local government that are not covered by the immunity clause, and that is the reason why they can commit crimes why they remain in office and get away with it is because of the immunity clause, which doesn't allow anybody to charge them to court. They cannot be arrested while they remain in the office. They cannot be prosecuted for any crimes they committed. And of course, that is where they derive their powers of impunity sometimes. So when you have some of these head of government becoming tyrants, it is because of the latitude that the Constitution has provided them, within which they operate without considering the interest of the people. That is why some of them become, they become despotic. They rule with as if they are still military. And that is the same power with which some of them sustain and perpetuate themselves in office. And some of them even have devised a means of...
Oh yeah. Comrade once more. Comrade. Yes. The man is a professor. He can go on for 35 hours with non-stop, not live we call such people. So in the essence, we have a studio guest, who equally wants to weigh in on this issue for us. And he's no other person than, I normally call him a man of timber and caliber, Iroko and Ogbeche. Anyway, his name is Bayo Ayo, barrister at law, solicitor, the Supreme Court of Nigeria, and of course a developmental expert, apart from being a public affairs analyst, and of course a political juggernaut. But be that as it may, he is equally vast in this area, and that's why we brought him to look at the executive. Why is the executive seen as government?
Oh, well, I've always said that the major problem we have in Africa generally is that we are kowtowing the kind of democratic system that is alien to us as Africans, number one. And as such, we tend to overdo stuff. The second thing is that, especially, particularly as relates to Nigeria and the electorate, there's too much attention on who becomes the president or who becomes the governor of a state, over and above who is going into the representative parliament, which is supposed to be the government itself.
Representative of the people.
So we have substituted the parliament for the executive and vice versa. And that is why the executive is taking over the role of the parliament. And unfortunately, the executive have now come to become, they have become the, what I will refer to as a selector of the parliament, in the sense that you have a situation where a governor is the one who handpicks all the members of the assembly, and the president is the one who confirms or who approves who becomes what in the Senate and the House of Reps. So that is part of why we tend to think that the executive is government.
Okay. Now, maybe you followed the events. We have three arms of government: executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. We even want to give it to the executive, the judiciary. Sometimes it too wants to maintain its independence. But we found out that, well, except maybe in one or two occasions, based on what you have just said, maybe if the president is not trying to kowtow to the financial demands of the legislature, that's when you see them now coming up and saying that we can't be a rubber stamp. What do they mean by that? Yeah, they can't be a rubber stamp.
So like we have agreed that if we look at the Nigerian situation, yes, now, it may be safe for us to say conservatively, yes, 65% of those in the National Assembly and the State Houses of Assembly were selected persons of the president and their various governors. And if that be the case, he who pays the piper, they say, dictates the tune. So if I have an interest in someone and I put him in such a position, there's a tendency for me to want to be overbearing and make demands on the excuse. There's an excuse that they give, that I want to succeed, so I need people who would help me to succeed. Forgetting that there is success, that there's quality in the kind of success you attain when you are under pressure and criticisms of opposition. So it's easy for us to also see that majority of houses of assembly are manned by the ruling party in the state.
I appreciate you. That's a great one. I developed my element or my idea of success when I was in school. I was the president of a road track club, in the university road track club. I was the president of the road track club. And when the election came, I didn't even have the intention. But one way or the other, I got elected as the president of the club. Then there was this guy who wanted to, but he wasn't elected. They will have a caucus, they will have their meetings to disturb us and not to make things work. So one way or the other, people now, okay, President, you just sit down like this, okay, we'll support you. And they now started. But his ideas was what I was working with, and it gave me a success. In fact, all the president of the road track club, I succeeded. based on what you have just said, that because if you have somebody like your enemy, as it were, in quote, as on the opposition, then they will make it strong. And I guess maybe based on this, the next topic, maybe after the Christmas period, will bring you so that we'll discuss the importance of opposition in democracy. Because as it were now in Nigeria, there is no opposition. Or no viable opposition.
No viable
and of course, it will not bring about good governance.
It cannot.
Let us now leave that one for another time. Now the issue is that the executive now runs short over every other arms of government. Why is that so?
A simple reason, because, okay, let's even take the judiciary that we say is quasi-independent. Independent. How do you, for instance, allow the president to nominate persons into judicial positions and expect independence of mind and liberality of decisions or ideas? It is almost impossible. And don't forget, like I always say, this is Africa. In Africa, we always respect leadership. It is foreign to Africa to, almost foreign to Africa to actually oppose an established leadership. So if we look at it critically, and I've made this point in so many fora, Africa needs to develop its own kind of democracy. Maybe such as we had in the old Oyo Empire, with the Oyomesis as a checkmate to the Alafin, who was overall Igbakeji Orisha, the one who has all the authority, you know. I mean, after God, it was then the Alafin. But the Alafin had a group of men and women who checkmated him to the point where when they see that he's done wrong, they can tell him to his face that, hey, Oga, you've done this wrong.
The calabash is,
you know, and then the man would take the option of the calabash. But in this case, we have usurped, or we have donated, even the electorate have donated the powers, their electoral powers, to those we believe are the ones who can control us.
Yes. I'll come back to you, Comrade Debo Adeniran, in a short while. I want to ask this question so that both of you, and I know that's your area of concentration or attention or specialization, and that's the docility of the electorate, which you just said. We have donated power to them by virtue of Section 12 of the Constitution, that all persons are an authority. They have their power from the people, and that, of course, the whole essence of government is the welfare and security of the people, which they should do for us as people. Government, the people after donating don't even go to look at them. Fortunately, you are a grassroots man. Constituency offices are places where there is always an interface between the electors and the elected. How is it in this country?
First
with your own experience in this country.
First and foremost, I think the question I would like the professor to answer is: are we part of the process that produced the constitution you just
No, we
quoted?
all know we are not part. Since we are having it, let us.
So if we are not part, in law they taught us that you cannot build something on nothing.
Yes.
It means that we have no stake as per se in how we are governed.
Yes.
So saying that we have donated means that you are saying, oh, we deliberately or give them that. No, we were not even given the opportunity in the first instance to own it.
I agree.
So if we did not own it, how did we donate it?
I agree with you.
So that's the question I would like the professor to answer, because you know they are the ones that are reading the books. So, Prof.
He's a prof in quote. You see now, Prof. Yeah, you are going, Go on, Prof. But we have only 10 minutes for you in this regard. Prof, 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, if you don't hear me, I'll cut.
Very soon.
Okay.
Yes, I heard you loud and clear that we have donated the sovereignty of our country that should reside generally within the
With
people,
us.
to those that
Yes.
are governing us. And you talk about the constitution that we are not part of it. I cannot agree with you completely because if we didn't agree, you know, if we didn't accept it, we would have rejected it. And when Obasanjo was coming in 1999, he didn't have the constitution he will operate under. Yet we all moved to the polling stations and we voted, our different candidates. And Obasanjo emerged as the president of this country under a situation, under a military, what do you call it, decrees.
No, sir. I think the military had given us. We had that constitution, and they reviewed it just before Obasanjo.
They have not given it to us that we didn't know under which constitution Obasanjo was going to operate before he came. Okay. But then the thing is that even if we were not part of the making of that constitution, we have the powers to reject it. The power at the level of existing courts and the power at the level of resistance. Just now you said that we have not been using the power that is vested in the office of the citizens of this country. And that is because we have allowed successive government to divide us the more along religious and ethnic lines. And if they don't keep us divided, we will be united. It is a people that is united that cannot be defeated. And that is why we could not, because we don't have common fronts, it became difficult in having common voice. Only those people, those of us who are at the short end of the stick, are complaining that we were not part of the constitution, and so the execution of it is not based on our mandate. But then whether it's our mandate or not, government is going on at various levels, and we don't have a choice because we cannot create a different state for ourselves. We can't create a different country for ourselves. We still have to operate under that constitution. And I said something before, maybe not today, that nobody can enslave you without your permission. Nobody can force a process on you without your permission. We go die there. It doesn't matter who came to office. We will have reasoned in unison, the citizenry, and resist the imposition of that constitution when it came. But then we are complacent. That complacency itself is an admission of defeat by those who are riding roughshod on us. So it is our own making that we have accepted certain people to impose their wills on us. The same thing happens during the election. There are occasions when we complain that it is not the person that we elected that was sworn in. Why should we complain like that? And we will not provide evidence. We the citizens have the powers to gather evidence against those who are corrupting our society. And as defective as our constitution and our laws are, we can still make use of them to defeat those that have been dealing with us in a way that we don't understand. So basically, our silence has been taken as, as a concession.
Consent.
Okay? As consent. Okay? Yes. So if we don't speak out, then we have consented to the way we are being governed. That's being as it is.
May I come in, sir?
Comrade, just a second. Yes. Comrade, just a second. Oh yeah.
So you said that we acquiesce our consent. We allow this to happen as well. So you also have to let us look at the African. I always like to come to the basics of the African nature that is usually subservient to leadership. And as such, we now have very good, loud voices like yours who is professing, but how much of this professing goes down to the people who do not even know that they have these rights.
Right. That's it.
So we need to look at this, holistically before I agree with you in total with everything you have said. It is my position. I'm on all fours with you. But I'm not looking at it beyond that. What do we do to begin to bring people to the realization of their rights? There are some God-given rights that we're not even aware of. And you talk about elections. We talk about election comes, results are given. Then we sit down and say, oh, it wasn't the person we voted for. And then we want to go back to court. To the court that my learned friend here says was handpicked by the same leadership that we want to challenge. So who do we go after first? Do we go after the courts first, or we go after the leadership?
Yes.
I think that, like I said, I cannot. If I continue like this, I'll be asking you questions that will form the basis of a thesis.
He's ready. He's ready.
Yes.
Go on, comrade.
First, we should about social political education.
Political education.
Of course, you have Wale Ogunade there. He's an activist.
The lone voice in the wilderness.
Voters awareness, group. They create awareness within the little corner they find themselves. Yeah. It is the function, is the role of the media, the civil society, to let the people know what constitutes their rights and what powers they have, the enormity of the power they are holding in their hands as the citizens of the country. But then we have been ravaged by pervasive poverty, and a lot of us seek more after what we want to eat than how to protect our rights. So a lot of Africans then decide that, okay, to be subservient is not a death sentence. That there could be hope. I mean, there is hope.
Somebody cracked a joke. Somebody cracked a joke. He said he looked at Nigerian situation and he thinks that every Nigerian is just waiting for his own opportunity.
Yes. You see, so that has destroyed our value system. And if actually Africans generally, like you said in the prologue or so, or in your own prologue, that Africans are not subservient in the days of the year. Okay? Yes. It is the colonial masters that empower, that enamored those they handed over the reign of governance to. And they made the people to be subservient, because they gave them the power of money, they gave them the authority, and they gave them the gun, the firepower, with which they subdued the people and sold them to slavery. And when they came back, the slavish mentality still remains in an average African. And that is why they no longer constitute themselves in various towns and villages to what used to be Oyomesis. And hardly do you find kings and queens, or that is what you call regents now, to stand out their chiefs before they took decisions. So they forced decision on their own people. It means that those of us who call ourselves elites, those of us in the civil society, those of them in the media and in the academia and in the law courts have a lot of job to do in educating our people to pick up the gauntlet and defend their rights. It is their right to participate in the governance of their own country. So we have not done that enough. But it's not going to be an easy task. We have done it before in the days of military. It's just that we couldn't, drive the process to a desirable end.
Yes,
so
we'll get there.
The way to face it, first and foremost, is to ensure that we gather enough information, present to our people in the languages that they understand it. It is not the court that we are going to confront, because the law that establishes different levels of the court are clear on the mandate of those courts. And that is why we have different levels of court. If you are not satisfied downstairs, you go up, to the upper floor and to the uppermost floor. Then, then the people is the real supreme, or the supreme-most court. If we have Supreme Court, then we should have supreme-most court. If the people disagree, like we disagree with Babangida.
The comrade has brought something interesting. I remember again when I was in school, I belonged to the Wine Drinkers Club. And of course, we call ourselves the Supremos Comradium. Anyway, we'll go to that again another time. Barrister Bayo, functions of government. Is it because this government have been lacking in providing or carrying out the functions? That's why there is a pain in the land. Because, be honest to me, like everybody is adjusting to run their houses. Despite the fact that things are going up, we are all adjusting. One will expect that, yes, government, the way it is, that by now there will be some leverage, there will be some palliative, things will be on ground, so that we can see what we call dividends of democracy. What's the essence of these dividends of democracy if government is not functioning?
I will not agree with you that government is not functioning. Maybe it's not functioning to par.
Good.
And unfortunately, very unfortunately, we run a pretentious capitalist system where a lot of our oppressors, in quotes, and what I say is that the leadership of Nigeria can best be described as dealership, because deals are, done like left, right, and center to the matter of leadership. So, and if you look at the Nigerian system, what you actually lack in Nigeria is leadership cum-management, or management cum-leadership. Because the resources are there, the people are there, everything you need is there to function. But we do not have that. And unfortunately, again, I come back to us, the people. And like I joked earlier, it was a Liberian friend of mine that actually said that to me, that he found out that Nigerians will call, they will criticize, they will fight, and then when you give them the opportunity, they revert to the same thing. So he came to the conclusion that every Nigerian is only waiting for his own opportunity. For as long as that is our mental state, and it is the order of our mindset, we will continue to go on the way we are. Yes, we have started adjusting. In fact, this morning, I had an opportunity to speak to a group of people, and I said that one of the things that we need to look at is, I've always prayed that Nigerians will just cut their greed by half. If we cut our greed by half, when I say we now, I don't want to be pushing us for leadership. Let Nigerians, let us cut it by half. We will still achieve what we want to achieve, though 50% of, because again, you hear from leaders, somebody has 8-point-something trillion naira. And then, what do you want to do with that kind of money?
Estates everywhere.
What do you want? Somebody's been prosecuted for 320-something houses, so what do you want to do with all of that? You had 1 to 10 houses, 20 to 30,
I was at
50 to 100.
a few days ago. I saw big names there.
So,
and unfortunately, I passed through the house of one of them. It's very prominent. I don't want to mention Road.
So when you look at
wasting.
So when you look at certain things, like I was telling them this morning, that the end of everything is this thing called death, which comes at will, at his own time. And
you can't
so,
bribe God.
So is it just to live, to eat, to wear clothes, and then you now amass so much wealth that even you cannot control? So those are things we need to begin to talk to ourselves over. That let's cut the greed into half. Then let us all imbibe the spirit of contentment.
And even that love for my brother.
No, you see, if you are contented with yourself, because you see, you cannot give what you don't have.
Yes.
I always tell people that when you hear those 3 words, I love you, I think it's about the most selfish phrase you can have. Because it is I that comes first. And so it is what I has or feels that is given to you.
Out.
So if I don't love myself, I can't love you. I can't give what I don't have.
Yes.
So until Nigerians come to that point where they see that the other person around there is also a Nigerian who needs to go to school, who needs to go to the market, who needs to do this, who needs to do that, we will continue to go
in this
round and round.
Circle. Comrade, are you still with us there? Just 2 minutes. Just 2 minutes. Don't worry about my face. Leave my face alone. Just my voice is okay. And just 2 minutes, please. Just to round up. Your closing sentiment. But again, why is it, just in 2 minutes, just see how you can do that. Why is it that deliverables of democracy or dividends of democracy is difficult in Nigeria or particularly Africa? Dividends of democracy.
Dividends of democracy. Hello?
Yes, 2 minutes.
The dividend of democracy is not really difficult. It is the operation, the way we operate democracy in Africa that has been, it's like a common
Oh, we're having issues. It's all right, Prof. Don't worry, we'll bring you back again since that thing is frozen, it's freezing, and of course our time is running out.
Especially in the legislature, they feel tardy. They don't criticize them. They welcome them with open arms, even when they know that there is a lopsided distribution of dividends of democracy, even in various constituencies. And those that are supposed to enjoy, that are expected to enjoy the dividends of democracy are the same people who will sing the praises of those who are depriving them of the same dividends of democracy.
Okay.
This is because
let's leave it at that.
Let's leave it at that. So
let's leave it at that. Let's leave it at that because of time. Please, because of time.
Okay. Okay.
Comrade, we really want to thank you for your time and your attention and for the professorial lecture. We have really deepened the whole discourse, and of course, it will inform another discussion some other time. We'll have to bring you back. You can't run away from us. So thank you very much, and congratulations. Season.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
You're welcome. To our guest in the studio, in rounding up, how can we now talk to our people? You have said it, but how can we talk to them? More active, more proactive in their relation with the government. 1 minute.
It's just through advocacy.
Through advocacy.
Through advocacy.
We'll do it through advocacy, and we can come back. We want to thank you, Barrister.
Thank you very much.
For you stress yourself to come, and we appreciate you. Meanwhile, compliments of the season.
Same to you, my brother.
Then of course we want to thank this management of the station for